Hello and welcome to e-GMAT. We will solve question number 83 of OG Verbal Second Edition by using e-GMAT 3-step process. In the first step, we will understand the meaning of the sentence. In the second, we will evaluate the errors in the sentence. And finally, we will review all the answer choices to get to the correct answer. So let's begin. In theory, international civil servants at the United Nations are prohibited from continuing to draw salaries from their own governments. In practice, however, some governments merely substitute living allowances for their employees' paychecks assigned by them to the United Nations. Let us first infer the intended meaning of this sentence. This sentence presents a contrast and the word however is the marker of that contrast. This sentence means to say that civil servants at the United Nations are not supposed to draw salaries from their own governments. Nonetheless, some governments substitute living allowance for the paychecks of those employees who work for the United Nations. Now let us evaluate the errors by splitting this sentence into its clauses. So here comes the first clause. In theory, international civil servants at the United Nations are prohibited from continuing to draw salaries from their own governments. Here, international civil servants at the United Nations is the subject and are prohibited is the verb. After semicolon, we have another independent clause that reads, in practice, however, some governments merely substitute living allowances for their employees' paychecks assigned by them to the United Nations. Here, some governments is the subject and substitute is the verb. Modifier assigned by them seems to modify paychecks. The sentence seems to say that the paychecks are assigned to the United Nations. This is illogical. This modifier should actually modify the employees to mean that employees are assigned to work with the United Nations. Hence, assigned by them leads to modifier error in this sentence. Also, pronoun them refers to governments. The pronoun denotes that the paychecks are assigned by some governments to the United Nations. This is illogical. Hence, we have pronoun error here as well. Also, this phrase by them makes the meaning of the sentence ambiguous. If it is removed and the modifier error is corrected, the meaning of the sentence will become absolutely clear. So we do have meaning error as well. So these are the errors in this sentence, and let us run the POE to find out what's the correct answer. Well, choice A is not correct as we discussed just now. Choice B is the correct answer because the way this sentence has been written, it leaves no room for ambiguity in understanding the meaning of the sentence. It reads, governments substitute allowances for the paychecks of their employees who have been assigned to the UN. So the modifiers are written and placed in such a way that there is no difficulty in understanding the meaning of the sentence, and hence choice B is the correct answer. Let's take a look at choice C now. Well, here this phrase having been assigned refers to the subject of the clause and hence illogically refers to some government. Let's take an example to understand this. Having been done with his homework, John has gone out to play with his friends, or we can write it as John has gone out to play with his friends having been done with his homework. So here this phrase having been done with his homework means that John finished his homework and then he has gone out to play. So this phrase goes back to refer to John. In the very same way, this phrase having been assigned goes back to refer to some government that makes the entire sentence illogical, and hence choice C is incorrect. Let's take a look at choice D now. Well, here the word substitute is followed by in place, which is redundant since substitute already means in place of. Also remember that substitute is followed by the preposition for the correct usage of the word. Hence, here we have an error. Also, this phrase for those of them is very ambiguous. We do not even know what it refers to in this entire sentence. So these two errors make choice D incorrect. Let's take a look at choice E now. Well, choice E firstly repeats the same idiom error as in choice D. Also, it repeats the same modifier error as in choice A. And the way this sentence has been written, this choice has been written, it's very wordy and very confusing. So as we found out earlier, choice B is the correct answer for this sentence. Let's take a look at the takeaway messages now. All the modifiers in the sentence must be placed as closely as possible to the entities that they modify. Also, certain words are followed by specific prepositions for correct usage, so they must be used in the very same way to mean that specific thing. Also, every pronoun in the sentence must have a clear antecedent. The concepts tested in this sentence have been covered in e-GMAT concepts, level 1 types of modifiers, level 1 correcting modifiers, and level 1 pronouns.